Stop. Don't go anywhere too fast. It's time to listen to a Head Over the Footy podcast.
Hello everyone, round 7 is done and here we are to recap everything that's happened, all the big stuff, and we have a big show coming up. We got a debutante on the show today, so we're pretty pumped up about that. And yes, we've got a number of things. We're going to change the show slightly. We're going to go with the top story from the round now instead of the top story. So usually we went with like the top 3 stories, but now every week come to our podcast, whether you're watching or listening, and you'll be able to hear the top story. So this week we've decided on what that will be, and you'll hear it in a very short moment. But yeah, every show we're going to be addressing the biggest story from the week at about the 3-minute mark. So just jump on then and you'll be able to hear that. But yeah, just remember we're on YouTube, so give us a subscribe there, and we're also on Spotify. Give us a follow on Spotify, and also turn the bell on, because when you do that, every time our show goes out, you'll get an alert as soon as it's come out, so you'll be able to listen to it. But yeah, every Monday expect the podcast to come out. So let's crack in, guys. And before we do, welcome, Luca Gusti. How are you, mate? Making your debut.
Good, thank you, Maxi. It's very good to be here. I've had a few appearances, but finally in the seat.
Absolutely.
We need to have some sort of thing to give out, like a baggy green for the podcast.
Yeah, you're right, Charlie. Yeah. Well, you just reminded me. We might be able to pop something at the end of the show just to celebrate.
Cool. Hopefully a bottle of champagne.
Yeah, maybe, mate, or something else better potentially. Okay. But welcome, mate. How are you, Charlie?
Good, thanks.
You're a bit late today, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, you're right.
Late.
You're late.
What's on your neck? Maybe that's why you're late.
that is.
Well, Charlie, it's all good, mate.
He's gone red.
You're here.
I haven't, and the camera can attest to that.
You're here, Charlie, and it's good to have you, mate. Despite the tough weekend you might have had, it was a tough one as a Carlton supporter, but I'll tell you what, it wasn't too much different if you're a Collingwood supporter, because, Luca, you got the Collingwood beanie on. I'm a Collingwood supporter as well, and we had a draw. So let's jump right in, because that is the top story from the round. A draw on Anzac Day, the first draw in that Anzac Day match since the year it began, which was in 1995. The first time they had that Anzac Day clash, which I believe Kevin Sheedy helped form and really make a big event of it.
Yeah. It was 111 all, I think.
There you go, Charlie. Well, it was a draw. We know that for sure. And yeah, another one. What do we think of it, Luca? What did you make of it as a Collingwood supporter?
As a Collingwood supporter, there's two ways you can look at it, I feel. You can look at it as a AFL supporter, and it was just an incredible spectacle. The back and forth from each teams, the closeness of the game, the highlights that came with it were just amazing as to watch it. And then as a Collingwood supporter, it's a bit disappointing. We're a bit off the mark. Probably are a superior team to Essendon. But I think, as you mentioned last week,
that's
was it
debatable,
Connor? He said that it's always a close game. So,
yes,
you can't really judge it off past precedents. It's just whatever team fights harder on the day, I feel.
Yeah, it's right. It's sort of like the showdown between the two Adelaide teams this week, which we're going to see, and then the Western Derby as well in Western Australia.
It's a spectacle, though. You got to give credit to Kevin Sheedy.
Yeah,
I think he set that one up. He set up
the Dreamtime game,
Indigenous round, and he's going for another one as well.
He set up Country round, which is between Geelong and Essendon.
Yeah,
which hasn't quite caught on yet.
But he's trying to set up. You'd be into this, Mickey. Multicultural round. He thinks that needs to happen, and I agree.
Yeah, I think there's he's done a lot, Kevin Sheedy, and yeah, we've just spoken about some of the great events that he's put together. So, guys, now when the final siren went, Scott Pendlebury, Abby Holmes went to Scott Pendlebury to do the post-match interview on Channel 7.
Yeah,
and first thing Scott Pendlebury said to Abby, guess.
I heard what he said. He said extra time, ?
Exactly.
But he didn't say ? He said extra time. And, I mean, I'm not sure why Pendlebury's opinion on that counts more than anyone
What's
else's.
the rule
But
for
yeah,
the grand final?
the rule for the grand final is, I think that originally it was if there's 2 periods of extra time and if it's a draw at the end of them, then it's golden point. It's the first person to score. But I think they've changed that and they've now made it that it's golden goal.
No, well, Charlie, the 20...
Could we get Nath to fact check that?
Hang on.
Well,
so
Nath, I can fact check it for you now because we saw the Collingwood grand final in 2010.
No, they've changed
it's
it since
changed.
then.
It's changed since then.
Yeah, so okay, right. So it was originally a replay, come back the next week, and now they've gone to...
So it was a replay come back the next week. Then I'm pretty sure they briefly changed it to 2 periods of extra time.
Yep.
And then if it's still a draw, golden point. So
Wow,
first
okay,
person to score. And then I think since then, they've changed it once more to make it golden goal.
Yeah, nice. I
think-
like that.
I'm pretty sure that's
with
the
extra
case. I'm
time
not
as
100%
well.
sure.
After the extra time, if it's still the same scores, then it's golden goal.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But
Well-
why don't we have this in the regular season
Well,
as
how
well?
many draws are there a season on average?
Well, in the last 4 seasons, there's been at least one every season,
Well-
and in some there's been 2 on one of those seasons, and I think one of the seasons had 3.
Well, I think
There are... Oh, go on.
there's enough rule changes. I think that'd be a rule change for great entertainment. I think it would be amazing.
I disagree.
Some people disagree, and Charlie, I thought you'd be one of the people disagreeing.
Well, I think it's a bad idea for a few reasons. The first one is practically speaking. The game is so hard anyway. Players are out on their feet after 4 quarters. I think it would be really, it would be a really heavy toll on the players to have to continue to play an extra 30 minutes, which you would assume they would with
30 minutes?
Well, 2 halves of extra time. Are you thinking?
Well, it can be anything, the extra time.
True,
It can
okay.
be 2 minutes.
But even 2 minutes is a little... Okay, even if it was 2 minutes.
No, actually, I've changed. You look at the soccer, right? They don't do extra time when it's a draw in every game. They only do it in the most important ones.
Yeah, but draws happen a lot more often in soccer.
Which is exactly right. Like, so why would you have to make that change when they happen so little in Australian rules football? And also, firstly, there's that point, the fact that it would produce so much extra burden on the players. Secondly,
okay, yeah, I disagree with that. But yeah,
Secondly, well, I'm not sure how you could disagree on that.
because if it's 2 minutes, how's that extra burden? Anyway,
You would want it to be 2 minutes. If
well,
it's
it
2
feels
minutes,
5 minutes. It feels 5 minutes.
Okay, maybe,
I'd make it 5 minutes.
Okay, but it's anything more than 5 minutes is too much. But secondly, in terms of pure practicality, then you've got broadcast things. So I know no one wants to think about that. It's not really, but an issue that comes to the forefront of your mind. But it's a factor. Secondly, thirdly, and this is the most important point for me, is that yes, I am a football traditionalist, but I think that draws are... There's something to a draw. There's something special about them that you get rid of when you introduce extra
true.
time. There's something magical
I think
about
it'd be
that feeling.
very interesting to hear from a coach and see how they would coach an extra time. Is it hell for leather and you just take all the risks?
That would be interesting.
Or is it defensive because, the players are tired and there's not enough time to come back sometimes.
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
like that. So it'd be fascinating.
The last thing I'll say is that feeling at the final siren at last Anzac Day, just the one just passed, when they've been going so hard for so long and there's nothing that can separate the teams and everyone in the stadium's just like, what did we just witness? And it's such a strange feeling. I feel like getting rid of that feeling and deciding that it can never happen again in the history of the game would be a tragedy. It's really good that still exists.
Yeah, there was a good point made on the Armchair Experts show on Channel 7, and the lady on it said that, I don't know her name, so apologies, but she said teams, if there was extra times, teams would change the way they play. They wouldn't actually go for the victories, and they wouldn't go for it because knowing that, okay, let's just maintain the draw and we'll win the game in extra time.
True.
So that was a great point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just know the feeling I have every time I've watched a draw, and my feeling every single time is let's play another 2 minutes.
Yeah, but then you would eventually just get sick of it, right? And I think having the draw, it's a talking point. It's more drama.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm not
Whereas
completely convinced.
In 15 years, when we have extra time, like draws there'll be no such thing, and it'll just be like another game, another close game.
Yeah. Well, I'm not completely convinced that extra time is a good thing. Like, an extra 5 minutes to go and try and decide a match. I don't know if that's actually necessarily going to be the best thing.
Her name's Georgie Parker, by the way. Just looked it up.
No, it wasn't Georgie Parker. It was another lady. She's normally on that show, but it was someone else. But thanks for your efforts.
I was doing Nate's job.
But she was commentating on Triple M though. So anyway, let's not get too bogged down on that.
Wasn't the orange team lady, was it?
Who?
The orange team lady?
That's Kelly Underwood. No, she's a great commentator. And but anyway,
controversial.
We should mention a few other things. It was the Elliott Mark of the Year contender. I don't even think.
What was your favourite call? Have you heard all the different commentators?
I actually haven't, but all I know is that Channel 7's wasn't good enough.
Jared Whaley's was my favourite.
Gives me an opportunity to once again go on my anti-Channel 7 diatribe, which I did on a previous podcast, but my mic wasn't plugged in, so it didn't quite get heard. But yeah, I'm just completely exhausted by the current Channel 7 commentary and how
no one's forcing you to listen to him,
unenergetic and unintelligent it's become. Like, even if you listen to BT like 10 years ago, he's still funny. And you can sort of forgive just the complete sort of lack of intelligence in the commentary because he's got a certain energy to him and it's amusing and it provides something. But now I feel like he just doesn't have that anymore, and the trade-off isn't worth it between sort of insight and language as compared to just sort of crazy, sort of raucous kind of, stuff that BT does.
So you're saying they should strike more of a balance in the commentary?
I think that James Brayshaw and Brian Taylor, the acronyms, as I call them, simply are not the men for the job when it comes to delivering the product of Australian rules football to the masses, because they can't do it the way that Jared Waitley can.
We're light on. Like, since Dennis Cometti and Bruce McAvaney retired, like there's been no one following their footsteps. I mean, we got a young prodding prodigy over here in Max, but we don't have any.
Well, Jared Waitley and Anthony Hudson, like, they should be the men. They should be.
Jared is good.
So you're
saying
they
should be the two who are on Channel 7 for free-to-air television, not JB and BT.
Okay, so JB and BT, you're saying, are the same style. They're both from Triple M. They've got a lot of energy compared to Waitley and Hudson. Hudson and Waitley are different sort of callers. But then if you had Hudson and Waitley in those positions,
more like
wouldn't
Triple
you want
Z.
one or the other? One from Triple M, one from SEN, and then Anthony Hudson.
Swap one for one, yeah.
Just a bit more of a balance, because I know what you're saying, Charlie, and a lot of people out there would think, okay, well, we've got commentators at the moment that are too fired up, and we're not having enough sort of play-by-play.
I can't remember the game, but it was Anthony Hudson and then like 4 ex-AFL players, and it was just a bit like, oh, this is boring.
Exactly. Triple M, more like Triple Z, the way they put me to sleep.
Yeah,
because it's just not interesting, and that's, once again, I will recommend every football fan out there to use SEN Sync instead of Channel 7, because it's so much better, it's so much more insight, so much more intelligence, and their use of language is just so much better. Like, it's quite simple.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people have opinions about all of this. I think I actually don't have a preference with.
How can you not have a preference if you compare Dennis Cometti and Bruce McAvaney in that style? And I know that's not the exact opposite of sort of BT's style. I mean, Bruce had sort of certain sort of like catchphrases and stuff the way BT does, and was considered quite amusing. But still, like, Dennis and Bruce together, they just were so good at their job. And I feel like if you can also Channel 10, which was Tim Lane, who's fantastic, and Stephen Quartermain. He was great too.
That's my point though. I like different commentators, and I don't like listening to the same commentator for 9 games of a round. I like listening to JB sometimes, BT. Then I love listening.
So you turn to Triple M.
I love listening to Hudson. Sometimes I love listening to Dwayne Russell sometimes as well. It all varies for me. I enjoy Jared sometimes as well. A number of other commentators. I love listening to Jonathan Brown as well. So I've got different. I like different commentators. I don't actually prefer. At the way it all is at the moment, we don't have like a Bruce McAvaney who I'd actually.
We do, Jared Waitley, but unfortunately,
that's
he's signed up to SEN. I don't think that's that much of an opinion. I feel like Jared Waitley is considered the best commentator of footy out there. And I feel like
he's one of the best. That's for
I
sure.
feel like he's the best, and he should be on Channel 7 delivering our game to the people.
Yeah, but he's got a big contract with SEN. He's on every
That's
morning.
true.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's hard.